I want to share a repair that I've been working on. It's for a late 1980s Stratocaster, which I think is a fairly common issue that I've never actually dealt with before until now. So you'll see my trials and tribulations with that. It's in which the post that holds the tremolo on the knife edge there actually has busted through the wood that holds the post in place. I sort of looked up another video and I decided to do it a little bit differently, and you'll see how I do that. I'm Dave with Stringing It Together, and let's dive in. So first I want to check out the situation. The customer said that he tried to fix it himself and he just couldn't get it to intonate properly. So when I played the E string, the high E string, it actually was not too bad. Once you get down to the low E string, it gets pretty bad. So as you can see here, it's about 25 cents out or more, and that saddles as far as it's going to go. So I take off the strings, pop off the springs, and the reason you want to take off the strings fully is because these bridges actually have a fine knife edge that allows them to float. I don't know if you can see that there, but you really don't want to wear that down. And make sure you always pinch the bottom of the screwdriver when you're taking off those screws. Okay, so here you can see the repair job that he tried to do. You can see he put the two screws in with the metal plate, which obviously didn't hold very well. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that out. So hopefully you can see here that where the crack actually is. Looks like to me it goes all the way down to the bottom of the cavity. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove those screws. Just need a flathead screwdriver for that. And here's the posts themselves, which are luckily not damaged. They look perfectly straight, so I can reuse those for sure. So I looked up a video of someone else doing this repair. Actually, the customer sent the video to me to watch, to ask me if I could do it. And the way that they did it was they used a Forstner bit to drill out a large hole, so drill out the post, and then fill that hole with a piece of maple doweling and epoxy. And I didn't mind that idea, but I figured that just the way the end grain is, I imagine that, you know, the reason that it blew out in the first place is because the post just cracked through the wood. So if you have a piece of end grain that's just sort of a circle, I didn't think there'd be quite enough there to stand the test of time. So I decided instead to put a solid block in there, and then to hold it in place, I'm going to add a mortise and tenon that actually goes into right here and right here. So I want to make this really easy for myself. So I cut a strip that's going to be the same size as that middle part, and a Forstner bit that's the same size as the hole. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a compass to mark the distance from the edge of the lip to the edge of the hole. And then I mark the bottom edge of the hole. I have my ruler taped to the edge of the cavity as a reference point for later. So since the Forstner bit, you could also use a brad tip bit, has that center punch in it, I can line it up with the edge of where the hole is, and then it'll automatically poke a hole in the center of that. So it's really easy to drill those out because you already have the center point and the bit centers itself. So I just want to double check, make sure that if I'm lined up with the edge here, that the holes are exact. Then I want to select my wood. Now I'm going to grab a piece of maple. It's a very hard wood, and this one has very dense grain. So you can imagine it's almost like a bunch of different braces glued together, as opposed to the doweling method, which is sort of sideways. So I'm going to use my calipers to score off the width, cut that on the table saw. And then I'm just going to rough out where I want that actual tenon to be, because it needs to be back a little bit farther here because I want to have a little bit more wood for it to hold into. So I just mark the depth with my calipers, and then I'm going to lock them in so that way I can score a line that's going to be the exact same size on either side, and then switch it for the other side, since it's not going to be exactly in the middle, to allow for that extra bit of room in that angled part of the wood. So if you've ever made a mortise and tenon on a table saw, it's sort of just keeping it flush against the fence and then flipping it around to the other side, so that way it's the same distance on either side, and then repeat for the opposite side. And then you just have to get off that last little bit. And you can do that with the table saw, but I decided to go with the bandsaw just because I was worried about getting chip out, and I didn't want to have either on the top or bottom any chip out. So that means I had to fix it up with the file a little bit. So next I want to route out that cavity, and in order to keep the finish from chipping out as best I can, I'm going to score it off so that way it has sort of a breaking point to go to. So all the way around, really carefully not to slip. It's easy to slip and let that slide past where you want it to be. So I could have used a router, but I decided to go with the Forstner bit. I just kind of figured it would be a little bit easier and less possibility of slipping, and also I didn't have to tape off the finish. So just used 2 big ones and then 2 little ones for the tenon part, and that way I just set the depth with a piece of tape. And then I went to the chisel, which I kind of thought would be a bit easier than it was. This wood was really chippy. I kind of thought it would be a really dense maple, but it's actually more of a chewy kind of maple. So yeah, I gave up on that eventually when I was dealing with chip out issues, and went to my Dremel. So this is a really handy attachment I got from StuMac, and it's basically a plunge router attachment, but it locks in place, it doesn't plunge, and I can just set that to the depth and then route out the rest of that with a 1/8 of an inch bit. I'll give you a little bit of close up here. You can see it in action. You always want to make sure you're going in a bit of a circular motion with the router. Now this next part, I had to finish the corners with my file, just because the router only gives a slight rounded corner. So, and this part is where I kind of screwed it up. I went a little bit too heavy with the chisel actually initially, and when I went to fit the actual mortise and tenon part, it was actually a little bit too shallow on the shoulders there, so there was a bit of a gap. I mean, obviously it's not quite fitting here, but even when it did fit, there was just too much of a gap. So I decided to just remake the maple block that I'm putting in there. So I'm not showing that part, and again, I'm only showing a few little clips here, even though this was a bit of a painstaking process to get it to fit. A couple times I got it stuck, had to pry it out of there, and then eventually I got it to fit nicely in there, so I'm ready to glue. I'm using wood glue. Epoxy might have been a bit of a better choice, but the nice thing about wood glue is you can just wipe it off the finish and it really doesn't matter. So that's why I decided to go with wood glue. I just didn't want to deal with the mess. And since it was such a tight fit, I had to actually use my old piece to hammer it in there. So it wasn't quite perfect. There was a little bit of a gap on the one shoulder, so I decided to fill it with CA glue, even though I don't really know what the interaction is between Titebond and CA glue, but maybe you could let me know in the comments below if you've ever tried that. I mean, it seemed to work fine. It filled the gap fine, and I haven't really looked into it to see if there's any negative interactions between those 2 glues, so I'm all ears if you want to let me know your opinion. And it was sitting proud a little bit, so I had to take it down with a chisel. If you want to do it a little bit safer, you can do it in this other way, which I sort of finish it off with, which is just using a razor blade with 2 pieces of tape on either side. I just do that to protect the finish, and that way it'll scrape it almost flush down to the level of the tape without going too far. The tape is about 4/1000 of an inch thick, so that'll get that, and it'll sort of leave a nice smooth finish as well, especially if you go on a 45-degree angle. And even though it's not really going to be showing, I decided to paint it anyway, just because it'll look a little bit better if you open it up. Now I really don't want to screw this next part up, because if you make any slight movement one way or the other with the drill, then I could have to redo it. So luckily I took my time with drilling the holes there, so now I can just mark the center line, making sure that it's flush with the edge of the cavity in the ruler, and making sure it's flush with the other edge. I always get a little bit nervous with things like this, because all that work could be for nothing if I screw this up. But the really good thing about having that brad tip or the Forstner bit is that as long as you're entering on that tip where you have the mark, then you're good to go. And I'm just using tape again to mark the depth. After that, it's just a matter of screwing those posts in there, and there's a little line on there to sort of show you where to go. This part I was getting a little bit nervous. Every little crack and creak kind of made me jump a little bit, but felt like I could trust my choice of maple. So I got the strings back on, and obviously I had to fiddle around with the springs and tune and retune, etc. But the intonation seems good. And the whammy bar seems to work fine. So next step, I'm just going to tackle the frets basically, which if you want to learn more about that, you can check out the description below. I've got a course that I made for free. It's called Foolproof Fretwork. It's sort of an introductory course to get you the very first step, which is getting all your frets seated and leveled before you can really start doing the fine tuning. So you can go ahead and check that out. And if you're curious about the other video that shows the doweling method, it is a bit easier. So I'll link to that in the description as well, just in case you want to, maybe you want to go with that method. That's up to you. But I'm pretty confident that this tight grain maple is going to hold this post for hopefully the next 30 years. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.